Welcome to another episode of Draft Dynamite. I'm Theo Ash, hosting with Cole Topham and Daniel Alameda. We've got two more prospects today. We got Jaycee Horn and Rondale Moore, talking a little bit about Wilson and the possibilities that he might get traded. Trevor Lawrence had a workout. Lots of stuff to discuss, but I think we're going to start out with let's go with Rondale Moore, wide receiver out of Purdue. We were scouting him over the last week. I'll throw it to Cole. What were your initial thoughts on Moore?
We were talking about him a little bit before the show.
Yeah.
But the similarities between him and Tyreek Hill are just purely based off of measurables, right? I mean, he's 5'9", Tyreek's 5'10", he's 180, Tyreek's 185. They both have insane verticals. There was just a viral Twitter clip of him jumping 42 inches, which is just insane. They got that yards after catch ability to take off the defense, top of the defense. But once again, it's the same problem that we're running into with Kadarius Toney. Obviously, the production is there on Rondale's side, and that's what he's got going for him. But is he going to be more than a gadget player at the next level? That's really the question. And based off of my analysis, I mean, I think he's not going to be anybody's X receiver, right? And I think that's something that we have to realize in this class full of potential, superstar wide receivers. I don't really see Moore filling that role as the team's X receiver.
Yeah, and that's something that Hill does do for the Chiefs. I mean, he's not just a slot guy. I mean, you can put him on the outside and have him win. And like the measurables are so great with Rondale Moore. With you can look at Steve Smith and you can look at Tyreek Hill. But really, the list of wide receivers that succeed at his size end about there. And I feel like if you look at Rondale Moore's his general game and where he's usually winning at and around the line of scrimmage, nothing much down the field. I feel like he's going to be hard to hit down the field. His hands aren't great. His catch radius isn't great. His quickness is great, but I feel like the farther you get down the field, the weaker his route running becomes. I feel like he is like you said, just going to be kind of more of a gadget guy. And with all the wide receivers, in this class, one of the most, I mean, it seems like we say this all the time, but literally just a stacked wide receiving class. I really don't see him going ahead of a lot. He's probably closer to wide receiver 10 or 11 than he is near the top of the class, in my opinion.
So my thing with Rondale Moore is we talked about Tyreek Hill, Steve Smith. It's the catch radius, right? Tyreek Hill's able to go up and grab balls. Rondale Moore, while he does have that 42-inch vertical, he's not a guy that's going to win 50-50 balls. He's really not. He's not a guy that you're going to send down on a street. He's not a guy that's going to create outside of the structure of his route. Most of the times where he succeeded was at the line of scrimmage on quick slants, in end arounds, and that can work, right? That can be a gadget guy. But the difference between Kadarius Toney and Rondale Moore is, one, Toney doesn't have the injury history, and two, what I saw to Kadarius Toney was his ability to go down the field and really make plays. Where Rondale Moore, that's where he struggles. His catch radius, I know Theo talked about it, it's not big, right? And that's the biggest comparison. Tyreek Hill versus Rondale Moore. Tyreek can make these spectacular catches. Rondale Moore, I didn't really see much out.
Yeah, and these short wide receivers, Steve Smith and Tyreek Hill, they're also psychopaths. They are different kinds of people than an average player. And I feel like that's, if I was in an interview with Moore, and it's tough to know, I watched some interviews with him, he just doesn't, if you're going to be 5'8" and succeed in the league, you're going to have that Steve Smith mentality. You're going to have to kind of
a dog mentality.
Crazy. You're going to have to be crazy. And Moore, I mean, from his interviews, and it's tough to just look at his body language or look at his interviews, because he seems like a really nice dude. If you watch his interviews, he's really well spoken. He seems like a really nice guy. But if you're 5'8", I don't know if I really want a really nice guy. I think I kind of want someone who's like just like has that incredibly scrappy underdog, like kind of crazy mentality, because there's really the list of wide receivers that short who have succeeded is next to nothing. And you need to be just a next level physical and mental like wonder to actually succeed at that level. And with the injuries, and I don't know if he's got like that Steve Smith mentality, I really don't see, if I wouldn't touch him in the first round. Once you get kind of late second, early third, then you can take a chance on his physical gifts, I think. But like nothing, I wouldn't take him in the first round. I would take Tony. Tony's bigger. Tony's I think can win more as an X receiver. Tony's hands aren't great, but I feel like honestly they're even a little better than Moore.
Yeah. So real quick, just to let me round this out for Moore, it's like, I'm not saying he's not going to be a bad prospect or he's going to be a good prospect, because I think he can succeed. But
the Ohio State game laid out the blueprint.
Ridiculous. And that's the blueprint for him to succeed. Cole, I know you want to say something.
Daniel, like before you got in here, before the show, Theo and I were talking. He cooked Sean Wade. That was some of his worst tape. And there's a lot of bad tape. There's a lot of bad tape of Sean Wade, right? But that has got to be some of his worst, because Moore had him just stumbling around out there.
And that's where he's supposed to be at his strongest too, in the slot. And Moore just, I mean, it was years ago, but like Moore ended him on that in that game.
No, exactly. I think that's where Moore's going to succeed. He's going to succeed in yards 0 through 7. That's where you're going to hit him. That's where he's a bowling ball, right? He's absolutely bounces off tacklers, and that's the name of his game. I'm just not touching him in round 1.
So it sounds like we're all in agreement on Moore. So I'm going to transition to a player that we might, have a little bit of disagreement on. I know Daniel's not too high on Jaycee Horn, the corner out of South Carolina. Daniel, what are you looking at in Horn and kind of not liking about him?
So actually, first off, I'm just going to start off with the praise. Obviously, he's a first-round talent. I take him near at the end of the first round. This year, he played out of his mind, really boosted his stock this year. And most of the reason was because of his physicality, right? 6'1", I believe, bigger build. He's going to succeed in the NFL as a man-to-man corner, a physical corner. He's got the build for it. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. He's got it all there. What I don't like about him is he's grabby, right? He's overly physical, and that's going to be the biggest issue. How does he deal with the twitchy receivers? How does he deal with the Tyreek Hill? How does he deal with the Devontae Smith? He, in one of his best games of the year against Auburn, he played against Seth Williams, a bigger body X receiver, absolutely dominated him. I think he'll do that in the league, right? Against the Denzel Mimses of the world, the bigger body receivers. I think he'll have success. Where he will struggle is with the quicker receivers. He grabs too much. In his film, I arguably want to say more than 50% of the time, Jaycee Horn was holding the receiver. Not a lot of times he got called. Not a lot of times. Oh my God, the light just turned off. But most of the times it didn't get called. But in the NFL, when you're going up against a quicker receiver, they will get called. And that's what scares me, right? I think that's something that is able to be coached. But that's something when I see most of his times and in breaking routes, out breaking routes, he's grabbing the receivers. That's not something I really like in a corner.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And honestly, listening to you talk, I am more convinced. I'm more convinced that it's a problem hearing you say that. It's tough because physical corners are probably one of the hardest things to find in the draft, is like a big, like big bodied, like good corner like that.
Yeah.
So it's tough to knock them down. But if I agree with it, you're saying like change direction. If you struggle with change direction, you're not going to succeed in the league. Like you're straight up not going to be a player that you're going to be able to put on the field. It's like Kevin King. You watched him against the Bucks, just a corner that he got beat straight down the field. But like Kevin King in general is a corner that can deal with, big bodied guys, but against change of direction guys, he's going to struggle. And honestly, that cost the Packers a Super Bowl. And so yeah, it's like, yeah, that he has strengths and he has weaknesses, but when your weakness is that severe and your weakness is something that is like you're gonna have to deal with like with every wide receiver in the league, or not everyone, but like 90% of them are going to be better at changing directions than he is at defending it, and that's a massive problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think the potential is really there, right? He's tall, he's stocky, he's got great length, quick feet, solid center of gravity. I mean, I just think it all comes down to if he can reel in how much of bump and run, like how much of that bump that he has instead of the run, and just the questions about his recovery speed. Like if he whiffs on that contact at the line, is he going to be able to recover and get back in the game? He also has this like sort of unconventional three-quarter stance where he's not like deep in his stance or super upright, but it's just like I think it slows his ability to snap to the ball, and his lateral movement also is like super muggy, and he grabs hard on those crossing routes because he knows he's going to get beat on them. He knows he can't keep up when receivers go over the middle and he's in man coverage. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like the potential is there, right? The potential for him to be Stephon Gilmore, be that next bump and run corner with that play style, with that physicality, it's there. But he really needs to clean it up downfield, or he's going to get called for that in the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you said, he's got to clean it up. But at the bottom line, when I first scouted him, I was like third round grade. Just slap it on a third round grade. But I mean,
He's harsh. That's so
Yeah.
harsh.
but I scaled it back because I realized, okay, these guys look for traits, scout the traits. He's got the build, he's got the physicality. I watched some of his interviews. I watched his coaches talk about him. They rave about him. They say this guy works hard. They say this guy wants to be the best. And I see it in his training, right? He's working on his hips. He's working on really getting that lateral movement up. His film, it was scary because literally every other in-breaking route, he's grabbing the hip of the receiver, right? He's grabbing their jersey. And that's what scares me. But in reality, besides the top two corners, those two guys have extremely high floors. Jaycee Horn's the number 3 guy. And if I'm a team in the mid-20s, I'll take a chance on him because he has the ability to develop into that number 1 receiver. He has the ability, he has the makeup of that Jalen Ramsey type cornerback, not receiver, cornerback. And
Yeah.
that's enough to take him in the first round.
I feel like his combine is going to be super important because if he likes, like you talked about Stephon Gilmore lit up the combine. He had an insane combine, and that kind of speaks to like, is it something that is coachable when you're dealing with in-breaking routes? If your agility scores are way up here and you're not dealing with in-breaking routes well or quick routes, that can get coached out because you have the raw ability to do it. If he goes into the combine and he kind of struggles with the agility, he struggles with the speed, then you not only have to coach it out, but the ability just like isn't there. So he needs to go in with a good combine and let people know that all the physical gifts are there, and it's just something that needs to be coached. And because coaching is what allows guys to reach their full potential. And the combine, I think, will kind of let us know, is his potential up here when it comes to being an NFL cornerback, or are these problems not fixable if his agility testing ends up being real poor?
Yeah, it's the toughest thing is really like, can he turn it around? I mean, for the past 2 years, I watched both this past year's film and the year prior. It's tough. Like I see this guy. So many people draft Twitters all over Jaycee Horn, especially that Auburn game, right? He dominated, right? He's an absolute ball hawk.
His ball skills have gotten better too these past few years. Way better.
Ridiculous ball skills. But I'm telling you, that's the little thing that really caught my attention was, okay, even though he deflected that pass, he was still grabbing Seth Williams in the hip. He was still holding Seth Williams there. On one of his, I think he like wrapped all the way around Seth Williams. He pulled him with his right hip, and that's something that scares me. It's something that that if it's not right, that will get completely blown out of the water. And I don't know. I'll take him late first round. I'm a little skeptical. I'm not taking him top 10. I'm not taking him top 15.
Yeah. I like Asante Samuel Jr. when we were watching. That was the first corner we did. I liked Asante Samuel Jr.'s film more than Horn.
He's a higher floor.
Yeah.
like it's like
There's a size difference there, but like the actual film is better for Asante Samuel Jr. Like, and I feel like again, like the combine will matter when it comes to like with their traits, but like at this point, I'd rather gamble on someone who is like seemed really fundamentally sound in Samuel Jr. than someone who is very fundamentally flawed in Jaycee Horn.
If he develops, he's a number one corner. If he doesn't, he's going to push out of the league right away. If that holding stays an issue, he will be out of the league. But if not, he's a number one corner.
Yeah, and I think Jaycee Horn, he realizes that his grabbiness downfield is a problem too. I mean, he's seen the criticism, he's seen the tape during the Super Bowl. I think we were talking about this the other day. Someone tweeted out if that's holding, right, then, or if that's defensive pass interference, then Jaycee Horn is not going to have a good NFL career. And he actually quote tweeted that with like crying emojis. But it also just shows you that he's seen the criticism and he knows that's an area of his game that he needs to work on. And in interviews, it's going to get brought up. Like, it's very apparent what Jaycee Horn's weakness is, his main weakness is, right? But I do think I'm in love with all the cornerbacks in this draft. I think they all have something to bring to the table. But the one thing that Jaycee Horn brings is, one, NFL bloodline. Of course, Asante Samuel has that as well, but he's the son of a former NFL receiver, Joe Horn. He played 12 years with the Chiefs, Saints, and Falcons, made Pro Bowl 4 times, right? Intelligence is another thing. He was named to the 2019 SEC Fall academic honor roll, and that's sort of a meme that you bring that up, like, oh, he's he hits the books, right? But on the game film, it does pay off. I mean, he does his diligence in the film room. There were numerous times against Alabama where he was able to read Devontae Smith's routes before he even ran them, and that gave him a leg up on Smith's obviously very fluid route running style. And so I think those are two things that you either you have or you don't, right?
Yeah.
And not something that you're gonna figure out when you reach the next level. And Jaycee Horn, I think that's why he's gonna succeed in the NFL. I think he's gonna clean up those little muggy areas in his game. But it's very apparent what his weaknesses are.
Real quick, just to jump in, Cole, I think that's something that really goes unnoticed a lot, the intelligence, the football IQ. Last year, I did a couple of interviews with some of the smaller name players, guys that went undrafted, but they said they understood, okay, if the talent's not there, the way you're going to succeed is with your IQ. The way you're going to succeed is with the film study. And that's what coaches say too. That's what everyone understands. It's the intelligence too. You have to obviously have the traits that can be coachable, but if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to watch the film, if you're willing to go really have that intelligence that Jaycee Horn has, I didn't know he had that, but you have to. That's an intangible that really goes unnoticed.
Yeah, I mean, Horn, he processes the game in real time very rapidly, and then he'll vocally alert and direct his teammates into alignment. I saw he'll recognize something at the line of scrimmage and turn to his other defensive backs or the linebackers and start pointing out stuff in real time. So, I mean, that's just something that you see on tape and just it really resonates with you, and it resonated with me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, and some other prospect news. We're waiting on I guess there won't be a combine, but some pro days. But Trevor Lawrence worked a couple days ago. He has that torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder, and he's getting surgery on that. But he did throw a couple days ago. I don't know if you guys.
He's dropping down on my board because of that. Yeah, I don't really like that shoulder surgery. I think he's now a day 2 pick.
Yeah, day 3, day 2. Hopefully, maybe the Packers can get him as a developmental prospect after Love. I don't know if you guys saw any of that at all, or what your thoughts were on how he performed throwing for teams.
I didn't know he was gonna have surgery, but jeez, like if there was any doubt in anybody's mind about this dude, watch his pro day. He's throwing to 60 yards. He's throwing to 65 yards. Similar to what we saw
at the end of his session. At the end of his session too. Like, he only got better.
Ridiculous. Yeah. But honestly, I'll be blunt. Obviously he's the number 1 player in this class. He's the number 1 quarterback in this class.
Yeah.
But I have more critiques on him than other people. I really struggle. Okay, yes, he won a championship as a true freshman, but there's some times in the middle of the season playing against some bum teams, he's not throwing accurate. He's getting lazy with his ball placement over the middle of the field. And that's something that it's not going to show up in his pro day. It's not going to show up at the combine because they're not playing against defenses. It's going to show up in the NFL. So that's something I'm curious to see his rookie year. How does he continuously drive down the field? Can he march a team down the field consecutively late in the game? Can he lead? Can he play within a system is also something I need to see. He blew his pro day out of the water. He's going to test well. He does everything well. He's the number one quarterback in this draft class. But
the lights.
The lights, man. Taylor plays lights. But it's nothing I didn't expect. But just to reassure everyone, the man can throw 65 yards. He can throw 70.
On a rope too. Like these aren't moonshots either that he was throwing. Like most quarterbacks, I think, could get it 60 yards, but to get it 65 yards quickly is a big thing. Like with velocity. And yeah, what you're saying about his overall game, I mean, Lawrence is not perfect. Like this idea that he's going to come in and just be like, I don't think he was as good. I mean, he's a great prospect. I feel like I don't think he's as good a prospect as maybe Cam was coming out of school. Maybe Luck was, but I mean, there's some stuff he needs to clean up. I think mechanically, kind of, but there's nothing that's so bad that I feel like he's going to fail. Or there's no. Like with Horn, I can see him fail because he's grabby. With Moore, I can see him fail because he's tiny. Even with the other quarterbacks, like Fields, I can see him fail because of how he react. Like there's a good chance that he gets better and he succeeds, but there is a path to failure that I see with all these guys. With Lawrence, like yeah, there are flaws. But with Lawrence, I really don't see the path to failure. Like, I just don't see what he's so weak at that it is going to make him a bad quarterback. Which I think that we agree with, but just kind of, yeah.
The biggest thing for me is it's not the difference between him being a bust and a great QB. It's the difference between him being a gold jacket guy and an all NFL team. Like that's the difference. And I truly believe I still need to see him in the NFL. I don't think that he's a shoo-in to be a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a shoo-in to be a top 3 quarterback in the league. I don't think so. He's got the physical traits. He's got it all there, but we have to see it get played. Like, to be honest, true freshman winning national championship, that's awesome. The next 2 years, there's times in the regular season where you look like a good quarter. You look like a great.
Especially last year.
There's times where obviously he just throws it up to his receivers. He had 50-50 ball receivers both years. Justin Ross, T. Higgins, both of those guys can go up and grab the ball. I need to see him in the NFL. Can he methodically lead a team down the field? All I'm saying is he's not a shoo-in to be Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that statement, he's not a shoo-in to be a Hall of Famer, we're just nitpicking at this point, right? I mean, this is why he's a quote-unquote generational prospect, as much as I hate that term. But it's the term that people are throwing out when transcendent quarterback prospects come, like Andrew Luck and Cam Newton. I mean, he's got the pinpoint accuracy, the arm strength, the mobility and the accuracy on the run. He's comfortable taking snaps under center in the shotgun. He's got steady footwork, ironed out throwing mechanics. I mean, I could just go on and on and on, right? I mean, it was just another practice for him at his pro day, and Urban Meyer got his closest look yet. He's probably going to be the number 1 pick. He is the number 1 pick. I mean, he got super close to him, and I think it was Urban Meyer who told him to postpone the surgery and have his pro day earlier. I mean, so that just shows you that.
That's such an Urban Meyer thing to say.
Yeah, but I think it just shows you that Urban Meyer is sold on Trevor Lawrence, and he's getting his head start, right now. And so, yeah, I mean, with Lawrence, we're just nitpicking at this point. There's no glaring flaws. There's no holes in his game. It's just whether or not, those physical attributes, those mental attributes are going to carry over into the NFL. And if he isn't in Jacksonville, he's probably going to be in Jacksonville. I will eat my hat. If he isn't in Jacksonville, he's got a great supporting cast there to help him succeed.
The Jacksonville offense could be really good.
I mean, Laviska, right, opens up the field. DJ Chark, that number 1 receiver, he's got a solid running game behind him. everything is in place for Lawrence to succeed at the next level. It's just going to come down to if he can actually do it, and if his college game transfers over to the NFL, and all arrows point towards yes.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like I'd be a little bit more concerned about him if he ended up on the Jets, but with the Jaguars, with D.D. Westbrook in the slot, Laviska lining up wherever Laviska wants to line up, Chark, Robinson, the interior offensive line is really stellar. The tackles could use a little bit of work, but they have a second first round pick. They have a lot of cap space. I think they're going to surround him with about as much as you can ask for if you're going number one overall. Like it is rare that you go number one and you're on a team with that caliber of weapons. So that, I think that's a dangerous thing when you're combining, because normally when you get these generational prospects like Cam Newton, you throw them on teams with like, you know, Devin Funchess at wide receiver, or, you know, like these terrible offenses. I feel like he's not going to quite have that kind of level of suckiness when he first gets into the league. And I think that's going to help him a lot too. But yeah, definitely not a future. I'm not ready to say like he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. But it would shock me if he wasn't considered one of the top quarterbacks at one point in his career.
Yeah, and something I guess I just want to make a point, because you kind of brought up the fact like supporting cast is everything, and it really is, right? There's only certain players, there's only certain quarterbacks especially, that can step into a situation and make their teammates better, make their team better. And that's why, honestly, even though some of these guys are extremely talented, maybe it's better to get drafted at the end of the first round. That's why I think Mac Jones, one of my favorite prospects in this class, he's going to be in the late 20s. He's going to step into a New Orleans team, or let's say like a Pittsburgh Steelers team that already has some sort of team around him, and he's able to have more success right away because of his situation. I don't think people take into account enough how much situation truly matters, like Sam Darnold. I'm not saying Sam Darnold's a Hall of Famer, but if he went to a team with better weapons, with a better organization, I think he'd be considered a top 15, top 10 quarterback right now. And that's my spiel about how much a supporting cast really matters.
Yeah, no, supporting cast like Lamar Jackson, if he got drafted by, you know, I think he was the 32nd, the last pick of the first round, on a good Ravens team with a good culture and a good, you know, front office that knew how to use him. If Lamar Jackson went first overall or third overall to the Jets, you know, is he a unanimous MVP? No, he's not. I don't think or at least I don't think he is. So yeah, definitely situation matters. That's why I'm concerned about if like Zach Wilson goes number 2 overall to the Jets, or they start over like Fields, even Lance, who I'm high on. Lawrence should be very thankful that Greg Williams called that all-out blitz against the Raiders, because I'd much rather land in Jacksonville than on the Jets. All right. Anyway, speaking of quarterbacks behind, you know, in bad situations, Russell Wilson voiced his. This is not really a draft thing, but he voiced his displeasure about, you know, how much he's been getting battered around. He doesn't feel like he has the supporting cast he needs to really unlock that, you know, MVP caliber season that I'm sure he believes, and all the Seahawks fans believe that he has in him. What do you think of the Russell Wilson situation, you guys?
I mean, good for him. He's finally standing up for himself for once in his life. I mean,
not very tall though.
No, good joke, Theo. But yeah, I mean, he's Russell Wilson has sacrificed so much by not being overly openly critical, right, of his organization. But when you look at the numbers, 394 sacks in his career, that's an average of 43.8 per season, most by any quarterback since the 1970 merger. He is on track to become the most sacked quarterback in NFL history. And so it's at that point where, I mean, Wilson, he's thinking about his career longevity and possibly being a Seahawk for life. I mean, that's what he said on the Dan Patrick Show. I mean, every news site, they have this handy way of clipping it right before the other context is said. But he said right after his comments about being quote unquote what you said battered around, that if he's going to be a Seahawk for life, then Wilson is going to say, hey, like make my protection, right, and my career longevity a priority then, right? And so he just needs some offensive linemen. That is probably the main reason why his MVP season did not stay on track, because Wilson, it easily could have been his MVP season, but his line could not bail him out at all.
So I'm just going to disagree with a little bit. Like, I think the biggest thing, first off, quarterbacks are allowed to speak their mind. Tom Brady left the New England Patriots, my Patriots, because didn't have the weapons, didn't have the right situation. That's why he went to Tampa. He had a better situation there, and he's allowed to. He has the talent to be able to say that. Not a lot of players in the NFL, NBA are able to really voice their opinion, but Tom Brady's worked for it. Russell Wilson damn well has worked for it, and it's like he deserves it. He deserves to be protected. But at the same time, by you saying his MVP season, no, he played bad in the middle of the year, right? He got off to a hot start, but it seemed like it's almost a little bit of like the Patrick Mahomes syndrome. I think we talked about this when we met up the other day. It's like there's times when he feels like he has to do too much, right? I don't know why they don't go to the ground game. They should be more of a ground and pound team. It's like he's playing Superman. He's trying to do it all himself. And there's a lot of times, same thing with Deshaun Watson. They try to do too much, and that's how they get sacked. I think his sack numbers are truly inflated. I think because that's his play style, that's why they're inflated. But at the same time, as Cole said, he deserves to have an offensive line. He deserves to have the weapons.
Yeah, I try to imagine Wilson behind like the 2014 Dallas line, just some stacked offensive line like that gives him all this time. Do I really trust Wilson to stand in the pocket and just deliver passes quickly and efficiently, and he's not going to be scrambling around, running in circles, running outside like he always does? And I honestly, no matter who you put in front of him, I think that that's the kind of style that he's going to have, and he's going to take a lot of sacks even with a great offensive line. That being said, are those numbers, I saw some numbers that charted him at about 14 or 15 sacks that were kind of on him this year, which is about a sack every game, maybe some games there aren't any. And out of, what did you say he was averaging per year, like 40-something?
43.8, yeah.
43.8. So the number probably should be closer to around, 35 or something like that. And that's still a lot of sacks. Like 35 is still a lot of sacks. Peyton Manning in his prime, he was getting I think, the most cerebral, like smartest quarterback. I mean, there were seasons where he was taking like 10 sacks in a season, like 15 sacks in a whole season. So it's part of it is just getting the ball out quickly. Part of it is bad offensive line. So I feel like he's right to say like, hey, I want a better offensive line. I feel like that's not the kind of thing that you should just go out and say, especially when his play style is what it is, and a lot of the sack. But I don't know. It's a touchy situation. I feel like him coming out and saying that and stirring up all this drama is not the strongest move by him. If it was someone, I don't know. Just because his play style pins a lot of sacks on himself. Because the Seahawks were, I think, 11th in pass block win rate this year. They weren't a bad pass blocking off. They were holding their blocks for a decent amount of time. It's like Wilson is just also holding the ball for a decent amount of time. Like he might have a good offensive line right now with a different quarterback behind it. So I don't know. I don't know if I love Wilson coming out and saying this.
Something that you literally just said, it's the difference between play styles. Play styles mean everything. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, they get the ball out quick. It's the same reason why I like Derek Carr before this year. I dove into Tom Brady's film last year, right? Because I was like, okay, did he really fall off of a cliff? Is he really becoming a bad quarterback? He wasn't. It's his play style. His completion percentage tanked because of his play style. Brady throws the ball away when it's time to throw the ball away. He doesn't want to get hit. He doesn't give a damn if it goes as an incomplete pass. He throws the ball away when it's time. That's why a lot of the analytics people said, look at his completion percentage. Look at his off-target percentage. He's throwing the ball away half the time. He's throwing it where his receivers are. So that's the biggest reason why I think intelligence and play style are a huge reason they play in the sacks, because Brady, methodical, Peyton Manning, methodical as well, and Russell Wilson tries to create too much, and that's partially why he takes a lot of these sacks.
Yeah.
The analytics community.
I'm going to defend the analytics community here. The analytics community are like the number one sacks are a quarterback stat community. So everyone in the analytics community is
They
a big,
are?
yeah, no, to analytics, like QBR, EPA, they put when quarterbacks who take a lot of sacks, advanced analytics does take that off the quarterback substantially. Okay. In at times, I think too much.
Good to know.
Yes, I've got to step up and defend the analytics community a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'm just literally all I'm saying is like,
yeah,
it's like that's why I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, huge Tom Brady. That's why I was like last year, like the dude's not bad. Like his receivers weren't on the same page, and I don't want to get into it, but like obviously he showed this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can look at his. One sec. Anyway, but yeah. All right. How much time are we at? Are we running out of time here? What time did we start?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're over at this point, but we've gone over each of our 3 episodes, so right. I mean, it's nothing new here.
All right. Well, I think that's our itinerary. So I'm Theo. You can find me on Twitter at Theo Ash1 and on TikTok at Theo Ash NFL. It's no longer 16-game sample size. But at Theo Ash NFL, where can I find you guys?
RIP 16-game sample size. You can follow me at Ham Analysis on all social platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever suits your boat, right? Or that's not the expression, but whatever suits you.
Whatever.
That's not even close to the expression.
whatever floats your boat. Whatever suits you.
You can find me at Daniel Alameda 11 on Twitter. And may not have the following of these guys, but I mean, listen, like tune into our show. That we're all here giving you guys the best nuggets. We're all differing in opinions, but that's what we do here.
Yeah, and if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you like the video and then subscribe, because we're going to be pumping out draft content on all our social channels and on the YouTube channel just over these next few months.